When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
This episode is brought to you by Redfin. You're listening to a podcast, which means you're probably multitasking. Maybe even scrolling home listings on Redfin, saving homes without expecting to get them. But Redfin isn't just built for endless browsing. It's built to help you find and own a home. With agents who close twice as many deals, when you find the one, you've got a real shot at getting it. Get started at redfin.com. Own the dream.
There is no hood like parenthood. Hi, I'm Kanika Chadda-Gupta. I'm a former CNN journalist, mom of 3, including twins, and host of That's Total Mom Sense, the podcast. Now, if I had $1 every time I heard, gee, you have your hands full. On my show, I interview change makers on their life lessons, legacy, and superpower of intuition, which I call our mom sense and dad sense. I've had the privilege of working with Mom 2.0, March of Dimes, and the White House, and I've had some pretty amazing parents on my show.
Hey, what's up? I'm Kelly Rowland.
Hi, this is Chelsea Clinton. It's me, Bobby Brown. Can't wait to share my story.
That's Total Mom Sense is a production of the Evergreen Podcast Network. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube so you never miss an episode. To join my tribe, visit thatstotalmomsense.com and follow me on Instagram at Kanika Chadda Gupta. Now let's dive in to today's episode. Hey there, That's Total Mom Sense fam. It's Kanika. I recently interviewed Christy Lord and Lindsay Droz, the 2 powerhouse moms behind the brand Lavant Collective. The name is derived from the French words laver, to wash, and avant, to be ahead. I am a bona fide neat freak, and I swear by their products. Some of my faves are the hand soap, laundry detergent, and room spray that make cleaning feel luxurious. The multi-purpose cleaner works on countertops and even gets stubborn stains out of the sofa. Everything is plant-based, paraben-free, and phthalate-free, and have naturally derived fragrances like bergamot, clean linen, and their all-new winter fur, which leave lingering, soft notes that aren't overpowering. Each package comes wrapped in a box, so it fits in with your decor and doesn't look like clutter. And most products range from just $20 to $30. You've got to try this brand. Shop lavantcollective.com and use code MOMSENSE to receive 20% off your order. That's Lavant Collective, spelled LAVANT collective.com, and use code MOMSENSE, MOMSENSE, for 20% off. A bientôt. Welcome back to That's Total Mom Sense. I'm your host, Kanika Chadda Gupta. Today, I have a guest whom I greatly admire joining me today, Arlan Hamilton. She is a multi-hyphenate who has climbed the proverbial ladder of success through sheer grit and integrity. And what's more, she is holding on to each rung with one hand and reaching out the other hand to help others along the way. Arlan, it's an honor to have you join us on That's Total Mom Sense today.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Yes, yes. I want to share how we're connected. So one avenue is Gravity Speakers. So shout out to Nosheen and Ricky, who are the founders. Yay.
Yeah.
And I've heard others sing your praises, which is just a testament to who you are. But there's also common friends, Samreen Arshad, Lisa Mayer, and Sunira Madani. So
Wow. That's quite a collection. Like an intersection. That's amazing.
Yes. I also wanted to just share as a side note that San Sebastian has put this little interaction together.
If you know, you know.
Yes. Read her books. We're going to link them and get into it. I came up with a fun mnemonic for your name.
Okay.
So Arlan. We are going to tread into your books and your work and what is lighting you up now based on this little roadmap. So A stands for adaptable, R, resourceful, L, loving, A, altruistic, and N, no nonsense.
Wow, I love that.
Yes.
My mother would love it too. I think she would appreciate that. Yeah.
She's in here. We're gonna get to her. and mom is in the title of this show, so we got to honor our amazing mamas. Okay, so adaptable. I want to share how you actually have coined your own term around this adaptability quotient, an AQ. And I actually have a friend, Chef Vikas Khanna, who said that his best teacher was poverty. Through adversity, it's the only way we can grow. You can't have flowers without the rain. So tell us what it means to you to be adaptable and have an AQ.
One of my books, I talked about the adaptability quotient that I was kind of sourced, referenced in, and it's the grit you talked about. I think every year for about 15 years, every year I got a little bit better at understanding my circumstances and not letting one thing throw me off my game. And it took a while. It took a long time. I'm 45 now. It started around 30 when I started to figure out that I needed to do that. And it took a while, but I like to say that I can adapt mid-sentence now. So if someone, for instance, gives me bad news, by the time they finish the sentence, I've accepted what's happening and thinking through what we could do alternatively. The reason that's the case is because there's been so much accelerated hardship. I've had so much happen so quick, like in such a short amount of time. I think I've lived 5 lifetimes. So that's why it got easier and easier. And ultimately, I think there's nobody coming to save us. And you can look at that as something really sad and really scary, or you can look at it as like, oh, okay, I actually have autonomy and I can make decisions and I can survive this. And when I look at the world that way, it's just been helpful to me.
For resourcefulness, I want to get into your first book. It's About Damn Time, where you talk about how you were just resourceful as a child. You wore 6 watches to keep track of all the time zones, have always been an avid traveler and interested in other people and cultures. And you held office hours back then on like the recess in the playground.
Yes, I did. So I don't know how annoying I was, but I got something out of it.
Yes. I wish I knew you back then. I mean, I feel like you were just so attuned to your God-given gifts as a kid. I mean,
I want to make sure it's clear. Like, I was definitely older than my age, and I was definitely having these conversations with people about their life and their home life and if they were happy, because I was so curious. But I was also a child, so I was also like, I would get into fights and I would, I would say things that I shouldn't have said to little kids. You know what I mean? And so I don't want it to look like I'm some sort of on a pedestal. Mm-hmm. I just have always been very fascinated with other people and how they're feeling beyond what they're saying out loud.
Right. Yeah. And I think we need to have that lens because people are so unforgiving these days. You accidentally cut someone off on the highway and they're flicking you off and, mouthing off at 7 a.m.
Yeah. At the least.
Yes. Yeah. And we don't know what anyone else is going through. So I think grace is just so necessary. But, back to how you're truly resourceful, what really struck me was when you were looking for your first job, you sent out 100 emails.
Oh, yeah. So this is my first adult job, or I guess my first job in a certain niche. I've been working since I was 15, but yeah, I sent out 100 emails because I wanted to work on concert tours. I had been doing independent things that I created the opportunities, but those are you make enough to get the gas to get you to the next city and we eat at the gas station. Like that was the kind of indie tours I was doing, where I was the tour manager and booker. But I sent out 100 emails to production managers, tour managers of famous people. And it was before you could do that kind of quickly now. Like you can find people's emails, ask ChatGPT for public emails. But this was like digging, took me 2 months to do it. And I sent out that. And then I got 20 responses. I got 3 in-person interviews. And I got my first big international gig. I honestly don't know where that one was in the 100, but I'm glad I made a point of it being 100. I knew that I needed to do numbers for it to work.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, in your books, you explain how you worked on tour for Golden Boy, the indie rock band.
That was the indie. Yeah, that was the indie. Really, really great time.
Yes, yes. Go back and listen to them. I get an Oasis vibe. I really like
Oh,
the
really?
music. Yeah, I like it. I feel like it's that mixed with like Blink 182.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100. Yeah, 100.
Yeah. And Jeff Perrin is
Jeff.
and
Oh man. Jeff, he's living and he's still kicking up trouble, and he was my first tour manager. He was that one that said yes. And he's British, but he's lived in Houston for decades. And so
okay.
he has this wild kind of Crocodile Dundee accent. Somehow it became Australian when you mix the two, Texas. And, I should update that because, in the book, I talk about how he said the reason he moved to Texas is so he could have a gun on one hand and a cell phone in the other while he's driving, like he was just kind of this guy,
Right.
just a sweetheart, but just very, very much a character. And I talked to him more recently in the last 2 months because I wanted to ask him about politics. I just wanted to talk to him about that. And he gave me such a surprising answer to what he feels about what's going on right now. He said that his favorite president ever is Barack Obama.
Oh yeah.
And I had no idea that was the case.
Okay.
I thought this was like a very kind of conservative outlaw type of guy who would really lean Republican. And it just surprised me. It just surprised me that not only, he had some Republican leanings and he had some Democratic leanings, but that Barack was his favorite. I don't know. It's just something about that. It was like such a wonderful thing to hear from him at this stage in his life and mine.
Yes. Oh, that's wonderful. And I think, even those who are, we don't need to go there, but like fiscally conservative,
Yep.
There is something that you cannot deny when it comes to family values. And, the Obamas are the epitome of that. Like,
they have different things for
no
people.
nothing.
I think for me, what I love about Obama, both of them, is the intelligence, is the EQ, is the reading the room and just feeling in good hands, even if you don't agree with every political thing. I always felt like, oh, there's an adult at the helm here, and I feel good at that. And I felt that way so much with him. And you have different presidents since, and you kind of see the difference. You kind of take it for granted, I think.
I want to talk about how you've always had this finesse and ability to take the risk and put yourself out there. And this ties back to the resourcefulness. You got connected to Sam Altman, who we all know is like an icon as a CEO of OpenAI, through the back roads. And you're just like this amazing hacker of sorts, which that resonates with me because I think there's a way to have a good, honest hustle. And you did that. And I want you to share how that unfolds because we can all take a cue from that. I think a lot of my listeners were high achieving, ambitious, but there's sometimes the rule following gets in the way.
Sure.
And there's ways to just make sure you get your goals met, but you got to think outside the box sometimes. So how did you do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a fine line. And as someone now who's on the receiving end of so many pitches and so much outreach, I definitely know what I prefer, what kind of vibe I prefer and what I don't. So what I did was, this was more than 10 years ago, 10 or 11 years. And Sam wasn't like what he is now as far as like being known as this household name, but he was like a leading Y Combinator at the time. And this young guy who took over for Paul Graham. And so he had in Silicon Valley, he was very much so a big deal. And when I was building Backstage Capital, which is my venture firm to invest in underestimated founders, which now we've invested in more than 200, but at the time we had invested
Wow.
in 0,
Yes.
right?
Oh my gosh.
I was building Backstage Capital, and I hadn't had one investor, no real traction, just a few people who had angel investors who had sort of patted me on the head and said it was a good nonprofit idea. And what I had been doing is studying every book I could get my hands on, every podcast, every piece of information I could get my hands on. I call it becoming money, because I didn't have money, but money attracts money. So what do? You become it. And you can do that with information. So they can't take the information from you. So I'd learned about this dude, Sam Altman, and had been studying him. And I said, Y Combinator would be really interesting for what I'm doing, because they're doing all these moonshot, kind of weird bets. And it's not very static and like, oh, it has to be like the startup. And they had just started taking on nonprofits. So I wondered, would they take on a different type of venture fund? So I was like, how do I get in touch with this guy? In the past, I had reached out to Brad Feld, who is a prolific investor and wrote the book literally on venture capital. And he had responded. But when I tried to find Sam's email address, I just couldn't find it. So I went to LinkedIn to see if there was anybody who was connected. And his brother was, Jack. And at the time, Jack was an employee at Teespring. He hadn't turned, into the founder of a multi-billion-dollar company that he has now. And I reached out to Jack and I sent him my deck. And at the time, the deck was very, very rudimentary, rookie. But I told him what I was doing. And I wrote to him and I just said, hey, will you introduce me to your brother? And it's not the best thing you want to hear, but he wrote me back and he said, no. He said, I get a lot of those requests and I just can't do that. So then at 24 hours later, he writes me back and he says, I took a look at the deck. Sam will want to see this, so I will connect you. And he connected us. We got on email, and a few days later, we were on a phone call. And this is when I was homeless. So I was with my mom homeless. This is when we were still in Texas. And we had been like driving back and forth between Houston, Austin, and Dallas, just like staying at people's houses and crashing and staying in hotels and stuff. So we were like driving back to Dallas when this call was scheduled. So I remember pulling off, finding some place to pull off on the side of the freeway to have this call with him. And it was a good call. I didn't tell him we were homeless, but I said we didn't have money. It was like, that wasn't the kind of thing here. So he did two things. He said, I will connect you to my lawyer so that you have all the right materials and documentation. So when you do get an investor, you're set. And this lawyer was at Cooley. So it was like, well known and respected. And I would go on to find out, like, very much so the lawyer for venture capitalists. Wow. And then he said the second thing, and like I'll underwrite it basically. Like you pay it when you get money, but I'll put my name on it so you can get in.
Look at that.
And then the second thing he said was, I will take this to Y Combinator's like leadership and see if we can have you as the first fund to ever go through Y Combinator. And I was just over the moon. And he took it to them. Something happened where they were not interested. I still don't understand, him leading it, why I couldn't go through with him just being interested. But he did the process and he kind of walked me through the process and it just didn't work out. And I have to say I'm incredibly, incredibly happy that it didn't work out because, again, talking about politics, we would go on to have so many different beliefs about the different politics. And funnily enough, it probably would have put a ceiling on what we would do because they would have been telling us what to do rather than us, struggling and finding our way. But those two yeses he gave of just like, I'll pick up the phone and I'll make a call. Those are huge. And when Mark Andreessen would later vet me to become an investor, which he did, he called Stuart Butterfield and Sam Altman or texted them or something to see if I was legit. And they both gave me the thumbs up. So Stuart Butterfield, who I'd met on Twitter, and then Sam Altman had already talked to me. So that got me the investment from Mark Andreessen. And again, he blocks me on Twitter now. So it's a whole thing. Like it's a whole dramatic thing. I have a whole book about like the politics of that. I'm always outspoken about when people are dirty and when people do me wrong and do us wrong as women of color or Black people or whatever. I'm always going to call them out. But when they do something that I feel is really cool and constructive, I'm also going to point that out. And at the time, Sam did that. Nobody else was doing something like that, especially in his position.
Wow. You really have lived like 9 lives. I
have. I hope only 5, because only 9 lives total. So I hope I lived like 5 lives.
Yeah. So much more on the horizon. My goodness.
Yeah.
Okay. L is for loving. We are going to give some love to your mom, Mrs. Arlene Butler Sims. I actually because I've read all your books, there was a reference that you made to I Hope You Dance.
Yes.
Gladys Knight. So I listened to that too before this interview.
Oh,
I wanted to be in the zone.
Yes. Yeah, you're doing it.
Yeah. But so I'm gonna have like show notes and then a playlist.
That's right. That's why I put a playlist in my first book, because it's like for so many of us, music has just been the literal soundtrack of our lives.
Yes.
And we all have a soundtrack, it would be interesting to see what everybody's soundtrack would be.
Right. Oh my gosh. Absolutely. Janet Jackson is part of mine too. I still remember at summer camp dancing to Escapade. And that was like the first talent show that I did, if you will.
Nice.
And I loved it. And I want you to share a little bit about your love for music and your mom. Like those are 2 things that are just cornerstones in your life.
Yeah, so my mom is 77 now. She just turned 77 a few days ago. She just had so much happen in her life to her that she survived. And I just watched that my whole life. And it manifested itself in a lot of ways that as a child I would have to help her with. A lot of mental health issues. When someone tells me that I am resilient and I have grit, I'm like, oh, you haven't seen anything. When I think about what she's been through. And the way she taught me best was by doing, which is she had a lot of things happen to her that involved the same types of people she's very kind to today. And I don't know that I could do that. And she always taught me to not judge anybody by something else, like, judge that person, not anything else. And I just thought that it was such a helpful thing, growing up and becoming an adult. And we're very cool. Like, she's my best friend. We're very cool. We travel all the time now because, those stories in my book when I was sleeping out of the hotel and didn't know when we were going to eat again, or when I was sleeping in a car to attend South by to see if I could find an investor, and we did not have another option but to sleep in a rental car. She was with me in her 60s.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yes.
But now when I'm just flying around and, speaking on these stages and getting paid and all of that, she's right with me in the best hotels, and I make sure she gets the VIP treatment before I do. Like sometimes all the time we'll joke. It's also like just her. There's something about her where she gets upgraded a ton. And so,
probably because she's so nice. And
it's something. It's like she's charismatic, right?
Right.
So she'll cuss you out, right?
Yeah.
But she's charismatic. So she we'll go to a hotel and I'll be like a headlining speaker, and my mom will have the suite. And I'm like, how did you get the suite?
How'd you pull that up? Yeah.
I have to get room service like myself. I have to, go downstairs to the kitchen. But it's a fun joke because it's true, and also because I love to see it.
Yes.
And so for her, for me, it's like we've gone through so much, and we've healed so much, and I just want the best for her. Like, that's why I do what I do. And then music, had my own depression and things growing up, and like I said, it kind of dealt with some very adult things early on. So music was just was a friend, was something to kind of lift my spirits or express what I couldn't express. I think that's the same I don't know anybody who doesn't feel that way. Like music helps you express what sometimes you can't say. And so I had a very, very eclectic music taste. I think I was the only 13-year-old who was listening to Tupac, Celine Dion, Garbage, and, Vivaldi in one sitting.
Wow.
Maybe, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I would like to meet those people. But it was because I was just getting so much from so many different places. Very much so. Singer-songwriter became like the number one. Very big fan of pop. Like, I just think it's just great, and I think 10 years ago or so, maybe even like 12 years ago, I posted on what was then like my Facebook or something. And I posted this meme that just said, "Life's too short not to like Taylor Swift." Like, it's good music. Like, what are we doing?
Right.
Like, why do we
Right.
have to be so like, oh, she repeats herself? Well, great. Then you can remember the lyrics. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So this
Exactly.
music is just it's fun and it's life affirming and it's healing and it's all the things.
Yes, yes. And it's just a through line in your life because at 13, at your first Janet Jackson concert, that led you to becoming a tour manager for the likes of Tony Braxton and CeeLo
Yeah.
and Jason Derulo. And then your venture firm, Backstage Capital. I mean, it's like a
Yes.
motif.
I want to be very clear in case Jeff Perrin ever sees this. Jeff Perrin was the tour manager. I was
Okay.
the production coordinator.
Okay.
But I became the tour manager for my bestie, Janine, who is an R&B artist out of New Zealand who lives in LA, and she's fantastic. But yeah, it did lead to that path.
Yeah.
Saw Janet front row at 13, 1994. I think it was August of 1994. And my mom couldn't afford tickets. And it was back when you were listening to the radio all day long.
Oh yeah, you have to try to win them.
Yeah, I had just fallen in love with Janet. I fell in love with her, meaning like people think that I had a crush on her. I've never had a crush on her, even though I'm super gay. Never had a crush on her. I just respected her as this powerhouse. There's something I can't describe. I don't know if you know this, but I bought her prize truck.
Yes.
At auction. Yeah.
Yep.
But
90,000.
No, it was 114 all said and done.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I know you want it. You deserve it more than anybody.
It was an investment, and it was also because I wanted to, But back in the day at 13, I couldn't afford the tickets. My mom couldn't afford the tickets. And then I won a contest on the radio, and I got 2 tickets, and they were like far back, but it was tickets. And I don't know why I didn't take one other person. I guess I don't know why I didn't, to be honest with you. Something happened, or maybe I got one ticket that was a little closer. Can't remember the details because it's 30 years ago. I did at the time only have one ticket. So maybe we sold them for a better ticket. I still can't remember what happened.
Oh, right.
But I only had one ticket, and my mom was like terrified for me. And this is like downtown Dallas, and I'm 13, and so she put on these hoop earrings and some lipstick. She gave me some lipstick for the first time. Definitely wasn't something I often wore. And she's like, "You'll look a little bit older, so maybe you won't. You kind of blend in more. People won't know that you're so young." And then she sat out in the car in the parking lot the whole time. I was in there, and I see these 2 older kids. They're like 16, 17, and they're from Fort Worth, which is like Dallas, Fort Worth. They're from Fort Worth, so they're cool. And we sit together and we start talking and having a great time. I'm there super early because it's Janet. And it's my first concert, so I don't know any better. And this dude comes up to us and he's like, "Hey, you seem like big fans." And we're like, "Yeah, of course, boomer." But before there was a boomer, he was like 30 or something. And he said, "Okay." He like laughed and he's like, "Hey, how would you like to be in the front row for the show?" And I stopped him. I put my hand up and I was like, "Listen, I got this." It's like, my mom told me about people like you. Okay. You're not getting our tickets. All right. You're not getting our tickets.
I love that.
So you could just go ahead and turn around. Yeah. And he laughed again. And he's like, "Okay, how about this? How about you hold on to your tickets and I'll walk you to the front row. And if I'm lying, then you'll see it. And if not, then you're in the front row." So I turned to them. I'm like, "We can do that. Yeah. We're allowed to do that." I was like,
let's give it a shot.
I was like, "Yeah, we can do that." So we get up and he starts walking us through, and everybody who's like an usher is just like letting him through, not even looking at any tickets, just walking with him. And we're just walking, we get closer and closer. I mean, we're so far back and we get closer and closer and closer. And then we're in the front row. And he's like, have fun. And it was legit. And it turned out it was her husband, who she had not announced was her husband, but it was her boyfriend, who I didn't know about because I wasn't into like gossip and that kind of thing. I was just like, it's all about the music and the artistry. So I had no idea who this guy was, but he would become very, very well known in her world. And he would go out and do that with a few fans that got there early so that she would have the right type of energy in the front row. It changed my life. It changed so much in my life, more than I can say. Mm-hmm. And I now give those types of tickets to fans when I go to see her shows. And I'll just do the same thing. I'll just go find somebody way back in the back or somebody who was there early, and I'll bring them up.
That's so beautiful. I love that full circle, like ripple effect that you created.
Yeah. Well, I would say they created it, right? They created it.
Yeah. And then you kept it going. You keep paying it forward. Yes. Yeah. You receive, but then you give. That's the whole idea. Yeah. The next A is altruistic, which case in point. And you have chapters on this. And I'm still referring back to It's About Damn Time, which I feel like was more memoir. But you have to read all the books. They're behind Arlan in the frame right now.
It's About Damn Time. This is your first million, which helps you get your first million. This is my latest book, Arlan's Authority Playbook.
In the first one, you share how there's no such thing as self-made, and you really advocate for those who are underestimated, Black and brown founders, LGBTQ, like you stand in those categories, if you will, and you bring people up with you, which I think is incredible. We just never see that. In 2022, Black founded companies received 1% of all VC funding, while female founders received 1.9% out of 100.
So imagine if you're a Black woman, what that means.
Yes. So you have amplified these voices through your funds. And I want you to take us there. What made you feel like, okay, this is how I'm going to build my own wealth and bring all these other people with me?
Yeah. So I was in my early 30s and I had just kind of broken into touring, which had been my dream since the Janet concert. I wanted to be on tour, and it took me 17 years to get there, basically. Like, as a profession, I had been doing it independently with Golden Boy and others. So I was there and I was like, this is it. Like, I'm doing it. And I just have to figure out a way to make money doing it because it was just so few and far between. So I think it was in New Orleans at some event, and the person's manager, like the famous person's manager, flew in from New York. And they were having this artist meet with different people from Silicon Valley. And I was like, what is Silicon Valley? And because I was coordinating it. It was a production coordinator. So I was coordinating these meetings. And I was in these meetings and walking out and into these meetings to bring people in. And I was like, what is Silicon Valley? Why are they being asked to invest $50,000 into some 2-person garage, startup, whatever startup is. And I was just fascinated by it because my take on it at the very beginning was, if someone is this famous and this, well-known and living the life, why are they interested in this other thing? I need to follow the money, because it's always how I thought of it. I'd always observed in every job. I just observed what was happening. So it was a surprise to me that I would go in this direction, but it was interesting. So I started researching on my own, and that's when I knew. And so every time I would be in these circumstances, I would just pretend that I was there to help, the different crew, but I was eavesdropping and I was listening to the people's names, and nobody on the crew was doing this. Not one person was doing the same thing. So I was like, oh, okay, now I know that person's name. Now I know what this word means. And my idea was, I am going to start a tech company. I'm going to become a millionaire. I've always been an entrepreneur. This is great. So in order to become a tech founder, I need to raise money. This is all kind of how I was thinking back then, because other people did it. Therefore, I need to. So I started researching, how do you raise money? And that's when I found out that less than 10% of all venture funding goes to all women, all people of color, all LGBTQ+. I identify as all three. And in a country where straight white men make up about 30% of the country, maybe 27% if you're really getting granular. Mm-hmm. And I was like, they're getting 90%, but they represent 27%. That doesn't make sense.
No.
So that's when things flipped for me. And I said, I believe I could raise $1 million. If I put my mind to anything, I can do it. And I was very, very broke, but I was like, I think I could do that for my business. But to what end? Because then I was looking at these things called like Series A and Series B, and what's going to happen when I get there? Is it just going to be for nothing? And I didn't want to raise money if I didn't believe I was going to be able to keep going. So I said, well, what if instead of trying to raise $1 million for my tech company, I raise $1 million to invest in other people who are women, who are people of color, the 10%. And that became the thesis of, investing in the unseen, the underfunded, the underestimated. And also I had started talking to all these companies that were led by these groups. And I realized, we were always trained to make money first before you go ask for money.
Right.
So most of these companies were generating revenue.
Yep.
And they hadn't raised a dime. Whereas I was listening in on these other companies that were back of napkin, here's $1 million or $2 million to get started, son.
Huh.
A lot of cases it was the dad's buddies backing it. And they had no revenue, no audience, nothing built. And I had always been very keen on like building personal brand and building community from day one. So I'm like, let me pair all of this and kind of start a movement and see if I can get in there with these big guys. And that's what I did. And it took me 3.5 years to get my first investor of like 365-day hustle. 3.5 years. Towards the end of that, on and off, I lived at the airport. And so I thought maybe it was never going to happen. But I thought, what if it does? And I kept thinking about what the world would look like if Backstage existed. Like I kept thinking, what if there is this fund that every Black founder knows to call when they're starting a business? Like that would be really interesting. Not to say we're going to invest in every company because we are venture capitalists, not a nonprofit. But what if? Because I had just learned all these things. I'd read Brad Feld's books about how deal flow is king, right? Like being able to access these founders. Well, I was able to access these founders. And I would go on to be in his book, his next book. Wow. I have like a page and a half that I wrote in his community's sequel. So, but I learned from those. And so, yeah, I just started reaching out to every angel investor and then people like Brad Feld, Chris Sacca, and Sam, and just kept going. And Susan Kimberlin, who I'll talk about to the end, she was my first $25,000 investor. Oh. She then gave me another $25,000 to set up shop. And she had been at Salesforce and had retired early, like in her 30s from Salesforce because she had done so well there in product. And then she wanted to do something in like angel investing. And we had met at a Stanford class for 2 weeks, a boot camp. And that's where we first started talking. And then it took a few months. And then it took a few months because I didn't have a bank account.
Okay. Look at that. I mean,
I'm telling you, it's like when I talk about it being like, it was grit. Like I didn't have a business. I didn't have a personal bank account and I didn't have a business bank account. So when she first said yes to the $25K, I sent her my mom's personal bank account information. Right. And she's like, no.
Yeah, we're going to need a LLC.
We're not doing that. Even though I had the lawyer on standby,
right.
We're not doing that. So, that next day I walked into Wells Fargo in San Francisco and I got a business bank account. And she was very impressed. She was worried. And then she was impressed 24 hours. Like, she's like, oh, she just didn't know. She just didn't know what fork to use. But she adapts, as we say, right? So I figured it out. Yeah, I went on to raise $30 million over the next 6 years or so, including $6 million from Mark Cuban.
My goodness. Yes. And, you've mentioned this in past interviews, but Mark Cuban has said that, he invests in you because you're in rooms he's not in.
That's right. That's how he responded to that question.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. We need more of that. I agree. And that brings me to N, no nonsense. There's going to be a ton of people listening in who want to be seen by you and work with you, but there is going to be a certain threshold. So yeah, tell us what that is. How does a company or an up and coming brand work with you?
Well, I'll tell you this. In December of 2024, I announced in Inc. magazine, I believe, that I was stepping down as managing partner of Backstage, day-to-day management. I had spent the last much more than a decade building it, 200 investments later, all of the things that I just described. And now it's in the really capable hands of Brittany Davis and Kelly O'Connell. And they run the day-to-day, they do the investment process. We're raising a $200 million fund. And I'm still the largest stakeholder. I advise them on an almost weekly basis, but they do most of that decision-making. And we will start making investments, in a few months as we do our first close, very much focused on our current portfolio and doubling down and tripling down on current portfolio. But we will always have a sandbox for new investments because that's been our bread and butter since day one. So what I would say is go to backstagecapital.com. Even if you don't, go look up Brittany Davis. See why you would want her as an investor. And you can email her, Brittany, BRITTANY at Backstage Capital. But be ready to understand why you're emailing her. Be ready to understand, do I have traction that I can show her? We've had 200 investments, so we see thousands of companies. What would have to stand apart? And what I would suggest more than just trying to pitch her, unless, you're in an open round right now and it makes sense to you, I would suggest reaching out to say, I heard Arlan on this podcast, and I'd like to get to know you a little bit better over the next few months. Can I send you our newsletter, or can I send you our investor updates and add you on as if you're an investor so you can get to know us? If she responds, then you're in. And we've had multiple of our 200 investments happen because of that advice. And it takes patience. It's not overnight. It just doesn't work. First of all, we're raising, so we don't have dry powder. We are raising our biggest fund ever. It will take a few months to have the first close, which is probably going to be 10, 20% of that. And then we're focused on, current portfolio. That's the model after 12 plus years. But there's always someone who breaks through. And it's the person who has patience and is really able to read the room and understands the incentives of everybody involved. It's any negotiation. Everybody should win. That's how you win, is everybody wins. So, not going into it like what a lot of people do is like, we're the best there is. You'd be a fool not to get in. And there's a lot of, I guess somebody's training people to do that. I don't know who, but I like to have a word with them. And I used to do that. I used to send these long emails and tell my whole life story, thinking that if only they knew, they would invest. If only they knew what I've been through. It's not like that. This is a business transaction. And so what we want to see is, what have you done with what you have? What have you procured? What have you made happen? What opportunities have you made for yourself? It's really, really important for us to see that you're not waiting around for someone else's permission to be great, because that's where we're coming from, right? As this up and coming fund. And I think you'll see over the next 12 months, some really interesting things happen with Backstage. From what I understand and know from behind the scenes, I think you'll see some really cool stuff as the fruit of a lot of this labor. And just know that we helped change the face of venture for so many years, and we helped catalyze what is now possible, even though the numbers unfortunately haven't gotten much better when it comes to the number of investments. But there are so many investments made that weren't, that weren't even possible. I think my best advice for everybody is, we want to be in your deals. Like, we want to be in the best deals. So we want you to come to us. But
this is for everybody. Like, there's food and beverage and beauty and literally any vertical.
We have AI infrastructure. We have all kinds of stuff. Okay. But so we want to see your deals. But for you on the founder side, and I work with thousands of entrepreneurs now with my Your First 5K membership and my books and my YouTube channel.
Yes.
I would say to you, create options for yourself. Have more than one or two investors that you're looking at if you're looking at investment at all. Also know that even if you get an investment, that's a new problem for yourself. Now you have people you're beholden to. Now you have to, like, I've been on boards where we've had to fire a co-founder. Like, do you want that smoke? Like, do you really
Right.
want to deal with that? Or do you want to create a brand that has amazing customers, makes enough money for you to live the kind of lifestyle you want and on your terms? I would really look internally as like, what do I want this end game to be? Or am I just playing, like, could it be something different? Or am I just playing like cosplay of a startup founder because I think I'm supposed to go out and raise $1 million, even though it's like killing my soul? Really look at it, because there's so many people I know who get investment and then they get very, very, very jaded and they wish they had gone out for investment. They wish they had just built it with customers. That's the customers are the investor.
Yes. Yes. That is great, great advice. And where can my audience find you and follow you? I already love your YouTube channel, have read all your books.
You.
Like, yes.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
But I want to give them the access.
My favorite and what I spend so much time on is my YouTube channel. And everybody listening or watching should have their own YouTube channel, by the way. It's such leverage. It's such an asset that you build over time. And I talk about this. So my favorite would be if you go to itsaboutdamntime.com, which is the name of my first book, but it also leads you now right to my YouTube channel. So go to itsaboutdamntime.com. Go watch me on YouTube. That's where you're going to get all this free information where I really go in step by step about how to do all types of things on YouTube with AI, with sales, and with community.
And as we close out, do you have a mantra that you live by that we can take a cue from?
I have a few, but the one that seems to resonate the most and still true after, years of me saying it the first time is be yourself so the people looking for you can find you.
Aww.
And yeah, that's the one that's like, I said it at a South by actually 2 years after I was homeless at South by. I was speaking there 7 times or something. And I was doing a podcast interview and I said it and it was caught on camera. And I was like, oh, that was good. I probably need to say that again. And it's been like the number one. It's now been on billboards and stuff. It's been kind of crazy. But that's it, because like I get to wake up every day knowing that I did all this stuff, bad, good, however it turned out. I've failed in public many times, but I've done all this stuff as me. So I don't have to remember any lies. I don't have to remember any like way that I'm acting. And people found me. That's why there are more than 200,000 people subscribed to my YouTube channel. That's why people, like every single day, like 15,000 people watch my videos on YouTube and they didn't know me before.
Incredible. Right.
Yeah. So it's just like, I'm being myself. I'm just opening up Zoom, pressing record and going. And I think that's helped so many people. It builds authority, which is why I have my authority playbook. And that's what you want. You want to be known for something. You want to be the go-to for something. And that's going to be where you don't have to worry about money again.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this sound advice and for your time. I adore you. Thanks for listening to this episode of That's Total Mom Sense. You can listen to the audio version wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for That's Total Mom Sense. You can learn more about my guests by logging on to www.thatstotalmomsense.com. Be sure to follow me on Instagram, where I'm most active on social media. My handle is @KanikaChadda-Gupta. And if you have ideas for show topics or guests you can't wait to have on the show, write to me at thatstotalmomsense@gmail.com. And lastly, please rate, review, and subscribe to That's Total Mom Sense if you haven't already. Thanks for being in my tribe.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistant's assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Health starts with what's on your plate, because a healthy plate is more than a meal, it's a foundation. Just as food draws life from deep roots in the earth, families thrive from the support of healthy food. When families can count on nutritious meals, lives take root. Kids take root in school. Parents take root at work. Seniors take root in their communities. A healthy meal isn't just nourishment, it's stability and hope. With your support, we can put food at the center of better health for everyone. Give now at feedingamerica.org/health.